The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, welcome Missouri and Tennessee. This is the last Friday of the month, and that means the Lance Drury Show, attorney Lance Drury. I got to say this. I've been thinking about this, whether I was going to share this with our audience. We rarely get an opening on this show. And about a year ago, I actually prayed when we got an opening that we could find, I know this might sound silly to some of you, I prayed that we would find a incredible tax relief attorney. And I swear to you, the next day, I hooked up with attorney Lance Drury. It's been the best prayer that I've answered in a long time because we get your letters. They are, I can't tell you how much we appreciate that you take the time to write these letters. And this show has become so popular that this Monday, we have the national show for Lance Drury. And that comes on at 9 o'clock Eastern time. So if you have friends around the country who might be experiencing a tax problem, tell them to tune in Monday with attorney Lance Drury. So here I am. I hope I didn't make a fool out of myself, but you can't do that with God. Let me introduce you to our great expert, attorney Lance Drury. Good afternoon, Lance.
Well, good to see you, Steve, and thank you for all the kind words. I didn't know that you went through that before. I knew you were looking for a tax resolution expert with the IRS, but I didn't know that you went to that extent. And, you know, I'm glad to be here. It's a great pleasure of mine to come here 3 times a month and to talk to all your guests. It just gives me such a great sense of pride to be here.
We're so lucky to have you. Let's just, first of all, tell people about your firm.
Well, Steve, we represent individuals and businesses and owe taxes to Uncle Sam. You know, we do audits, we do identity theft, we try to get penalty abatement, we deal with payroll taxes, we deal with personal taxes, we deal with revenue officers. We even do criminal investigation for people if they're being tracked by the IRS. So, you know, just about any problem a person could have with the IRS, we get involved in, because that's what we're here for. We want to help as many people as we can.
You know, just kind of you have expanded your firm. Tell people about that.
Well, Steve, I've been located in St. Genevieve, Missouri, which is an hour south of St. Louis, and St. Louis, Missouri for a number of years. And I talked to my media guy. He handles all my radio contracts. And I said, I want to expand. And so he looked into Kansas City, Indianapolis, and Nashville, and he said, well, you need to go in Nashville. Radio in Kansas City is cheaper, but there's a lot more money in Nashville, which means there's more high-dollar liability cases. And now we're not only in San Antonio, we're in Houston, Texas as well. We have over 1,000 clients at any one time. And, you know, I'm 72, but I've been getting up at 4:30 in the morning, 5 in the morning, 5:30, because I can't wait to get into the office and get into this and to try to help as many people as we possibly can.
Lance, it's so obvious you have such a heart for this. Hey, we've got so many questions from all over Missouri and Tennessee. Let me start off with Miles in Kansas City. He says, I just found your show in December, and I was looking forward to watching more of your shows. Will you handle all communications with the IRS and the Department of Revenue?
Absolutely. Now, I don't do that personally, but I have a number of attorneys. You got to realize I have over 1,000 clients at any one time, 5 offices, 15 employees. But every morning I sit down with not only my support staff, but my attorneys, and we probably go through 100 cases every single day. And I need to do that to make sure that everything's on track. But yes, it's one of the conditions of our engagement letter that our clients do not talk directly to the taxing authorities. Number one, you're going to get yourself in trouble. Number two, we don't know what's going on. And number three, if you do say something to them and they come back and they disagree with what you're telling me you said, I can't argue with them because we're not privy to that conversation. So it's an absolute must. You should not talk to the taxing authorities. They are not your friend. It's like talking to the cops if you're charged with a crime. Don't keep your distance from them. That's what you're hiring us for.
Ben in St. Louis, I just turned on my father, who lives in Los Angeles, to your firm. You should be hearing from him shortly. I'm so glad I found your show. What are your responsibilities during the process after a client signs with you?
Well, as soon as the client signs up, they're going to sign an engagement letter, a power of attorney. We send that power of attorney in. It takes about a month. We're doing a compliance check. We're trying to make sure that the last 6 years' tax returns are prepared and filed, because the IRS won't even talk about a settlement until that's done. And then our responsibility is to do all the communications on behalf of the client. We have a 3-pronged approach to keeping our taxpayers on the right track. First of all, we need to keep them compliant. I talked to a guy today out of Tennessee, and he has liability since 2017. He's not making estimated tax payments. I told him, you've got to stop that. Don't hire me if you're not going to do what we tell you to do, because we can't help you. And one is, you've got to stop pyramiding liability, because once you get an agreement with the IRS, it's a condition of any agreement that you file on time and pay on time. And if you're not willing to do that, don't hire us. We don't want you to waste your money. Number two, we protect you from levies. Bank levies, which is only good the day it hits, but they can file successive levies, and also wage levies. And the bad thing about a wage levy is it's continuous until you get it lifted. And number three, we're here to get you the best possible deal on the back taxes. 85 to 90% of our clients never pay back the full amount. 10 to 15% never pay a dime. Obviously, the more you owe to the IRS, the better chance you're not going to pay it all back. And the less you make, the better odds are that you're not going to pay it all back. But we had a guy in Nashville. He paid me $50,000 because he owed $500,000. We look at his finances. He makes $500,000 a year. I said, oh my God, he's going to pay every last penny, except we might get him some penalty abatement, which is considerable on $500,000. So anyway, didn't happen. We ran out over $200,000 in tax liability before the IRS caught up with him. So that's a pretty good return on his investment, Steve. So that's the type of thing that we could do. There's more than one way to skin a cat. But if anybody tells you up front, this is what they're going to do, if they guarantee you a result, run for the hills. It's unethical to guarantee a particular result for any client. We're not going to do that. I don't need to take people's money. I mean, I could retire. I don't want to. I'd lose my purpose, but I'm not here. Obviously, I want to make money if I'm going to work every Saturday and Sunday. And I'm going to my St. Louis office tomorrow, but I'm not here just to take people's money so I can make more money. We want to help people out.
Hey, here's really a cute letter. This is from Kathy in Nashville. She said, I really like the way you explain things that we can understand. You remind me so much of my father. I hope that's a great compliment. She said, I can't pay my taxes. What do I do?
Well, first of all, I want to tell you, this is the second compliment I got today about family members. I just talked to somebody from Nashville. They said, you talk just like our uncle, and we love our uncle, and, we want to sign up with you. So it's a compliment. Thank you for telling me that. But if you can't pay your taxes, that's okay. Most of our clients don't pay it all back, but you can't do nothing because you can get levied. So you need to hire a tax professional. Hire my firm. We'll go through the financials. We'll go through bank statements, credit card statements, debit card statements. We have to prove to the satisfaction of the IRS that you don't have the ability to pay this all back. And if you don't, as long as we get you an agreement, you're 100% compliant moving forward. You never have to worry about getting levied. But you got to get off. You got to get on the phone. You got to call us. Look at the bottom of the screen. All the phone numbers are down there. We're here for you. We'll take care of you.
Let's go to Craig in Springfield. And by the way, if you're listening on radio, if you're on iHeart, Spotify, we'll be giving Lance's phone numbers out. We realize you can't see them, but we will give that phone number out. This is from Craig in Springfield, Lance. He wants to know, can your firm get the IRS to remove penalties and interest on taxes I owe?
Well, yes and no. We cannot get the interest forgiven because that's statutory. It's just like getting a loan from your bank. The bank's not going to forgive the interest. Neither is the IRS. But you can get penalties kicked in one of two ways. Number one is what's called first-time penalty abatement. It only applies to 1 year, and you have to be 100% compliant for the 3 years prior to the year that you're asking for the first-time penalty abatement. So let's say you got $10,000 in penalties for 2021. You have to be compliant in 18, 19, and 20. No penalties for those 3 years. If that's true, you can call up the IRS, get the penalties for 2021 forgiven. The second way is harder. It's for reasonable cause. A lot of people don't qualify for that, but the major reason why is if you have significant medical problems, hospitalization, things of that nature, or you have a family member, a parent that you're taking care of, or a spouse or a child, and you've got caught up in that. That's the most common way to get penalties removed for reasonable cause, but you just can't call them up and say, remove the penalties. It's not going to work like that. You have to have a good reason. And we do have a good success rate with that, but you got to have a good reason before we do it, because otherwise it's frivolous.
Cecil, Columbia, wants to know, what do I do if I've been notified I'm being audited by the IRS? Can you help me?
Absolutely. And Cecil, I want to tell you, if I didn't live in St. Genevieve, I'd rather live in Columbia, Missouri than anywhere else in the state of Missouri. I went to school there and I worked there for a while. My mother lived there while she was living. I loved it. And so anyway, yes, if you get audited, you absolutely, positively need legal help. We can help you with that. You do not want to talk to the auditor. Anything you say can and will be used against you. And I've seen so many audits go criminal because of what the taxpayer said to the auditor. So you don't want to get anywhere close to that auditor. You don't want to get anywhere close to the IRS because they take advantage of lay people. So you don't want to talk to that auditor. You don't want to do that audit on your own. You need to hire professional help. And yes, we can certainly help you with that.
You know, Lance, I told you my family's from St. Louis, and I think my father did his graduate work. Is there a Washington University in Columbia?
No, there's a Washington University in St. Louis. I got my master's in business administration there. Washington University in St. Louis is probably one of the top 20 colleges, universities in the United States. I would say in the Midwest, maybe the University of Chicago is well known. That's where I wanted to get my political science degree when I started out. Of course, it was very expensive. I couldn't afford it at the time. And that was even back in the early 70s. But Washington University is probably second. And I would say the only place that could challenge that in the Midwest would probably be Vanderbilt out of Nashville, Tennessee. But Washington University is a well-respected university. And you know, the 1904 Olympics, the Summer Olympics were in St. Louis, and like Francis Field out of WashU was set up for those Olympics in 1904. In fact, in 1904, St. Louis was probably the fourth most populous city in the United States. And so by everything since then, it's kind of gone downhill. But St. Louis was a big city compared to a lot of cities around the turn of the 19th century or the 20th century.
Well, my entire family lived in University City. I don't know if you remember where that is.
Oh, I've been there a few times. I've been to the pageant. I've been to, what's the hamburger place? Blueberry Hill. Blueberry Hill. Okay. No, okay. White Castle I've been to. I'm not crazy about White Castle, but that's, when I was younger, I could tolerate it, but it's probably been 30, 40 years since I've ate there.
Well, all my relatives in St. Louis, they're in Ladue, Creve Coeur. They all listen to the show every month. So I love doing the show with you. Let me get on because we got so many more letters. Ralph in Memphis wants to know, how much of my wages can be garnished?
90% of your wages, of your take-home pay, can be garnished by the Internal Revenue Service. They can wipe out your bank account. They can take up to 90% of your take-home pay. Now, you can do exemptions. If you have children, you fill out that paperwork, and that will lower that amount that they can take from you. But the maximum's 90%. The other thing, though, is if you're self-employed, they can take 100% of your 1099s. Now, that's not usually a problem if you have a business where your clientele changes all the time, because the IRS is not going to know who to levy. You know, just because you did lawn service for somebody last year doesn't mean that same person this year. But if you have a recurring 1099 employer, and the IRS knows that because they get the wage, you know, they get the W-2s, the 1099s are reported for them, they can take 100% of that 1099. So those are the people who get a 1099 that have to worry, is that if they've worked for somebody for years and have gotten a 1099 from them for years, the IRS is going to know that, and they're going to levy it if you've got tax liability and you don't do anything before you get that last letter that says, we're coming after you, we're going to wipe out your bank account, we're going to take your 1099s, and we're going to take your take-home pay if you're a W-2 employee.
Our final question of the day is from Jack in Independence. And I can even answer this one, Lance. He wants to know, why is the IRS not answering my calls?
Well, the IRS is not answering your calls because they are underfunded. We have special software. It costs me a pretty penny, but we can get through in 3 minutes to various departments, not all of them. And of course, sometimes it's 9 or 10 minutes. But in the old days, before they developed this software, we would be just like a taxpayer. We'd have to wait on the phones for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then we'd get disconnected. I have people that hire me just because they've spent 8-10 hours trying to get through to the IRS and they can't do it. So they cannot physically take all of their calls. And this is one of the bad things. People don't want the IRS to be funded properly because then things fall through the cracks. They don't have to worry about being levied. But if you're on their radar, the service is going to be terrible. It takes forever to get things done with the IRS nowadays because they just don't have the people. And the people they do have, particularly the ones in the automated collection system, they're not properly trained. You wouldn't know it, but they'll say things that aren't true. We know that because this is all we do every single day. We spend 50 to 100 hours or more each year just keeping up with all this. But if a layperson calls them up and they tell them something, they're not going to know that's not true. And here's the other thing. This happens to us. You can call up, talk to one person, call back 2 weeks later, get a different person. They tell you something entirely different. We know who's telling us what's right and what's wrong, but the average person is not going to know that.
For those of you who are listening on radio right now or on Spotify, iHeart, Lance, give those people, how do they reach your office?
Well, go to lancedrurylaw.com and all my phone numbers for all my offices will be there. Steve, I think I got 6 phone numbers now on how to reach me, and I can't keep track of all of them. I'll just be honest about it. I'm not about to memorize them. I got enough stuff to worry about. So just go to lancedrurylaw.com, and that will tell you how to get a hold of us very quickly.
Lance, I want to tell you that we've been doing the show for about a year. I want to tell you the way you communicate on this show, your heart for this. I am so glad that we have you, but most important, the listeners and viewers are so glad we have you. Have a wonderful weekend, and we're going to see you Monday with your national show.
I can't wait, Steve. I'm ready.
You're the best, Lance. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, Steve. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm glad we got together so that we can give all this great information to people.
Thanks, Lance. That's attorney Lance Drury. Folks, if you know someone who's having a problem with the IRS, give Lance a call. I am telling you, you will be so satisfied. We're going to go to a short break. We'll be right back with more Ask the Experts.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.